After my second divorce, God had put me on a healing journey. I went solo for about, I would say, 10 years. 10 years of being on and off dating sites, trying to figure out what I really wanted. After my second husband, God said, that's enough. You need to figure yourself out and figure out what you want and what you don't want. And a lot of times, the only way we can really do that is by dating, by making mistakes, by going out on different dates with different people to see a little bit more about who they are, what they stand for. And again, because I suffer from PTSD, I think a lot of it too, I needed to see, since I had past relationships, what my triggers were going to be. Over the 10 years, it seemed to be a much easier time. I was living by myself. I was not having to be, for someone to have any expectations of me, I should say. So I didn't have any expectations of anybody else, and I didn't have to worry about anybody having any expectations from me. I was abused as a child. My child abuse started at 5 years old, and then the sexual and physical abuse started when I was a teenager, right around 13. So my first and second marriages were not very good because I had a lot of trauma, and neither partner at either time knew what to do to help me. So after my second divorce, again, that's clearly why I went on that journey, on a solo journey for 10 years, living by myself. I love the Lord. I gravitated to the Lord during this time. And I was a single mom with two boys. They were teenagers during this time, and they spent a lot of time with their dad. They did live with their dad for a time. And so when I had the time and I wasn't visiting with my sons, I would take that time and I would date, meet people, what have you. So speeding up after the 10 years of being solo, I meet my husband now. We meet in 2022. God obviously put us both together. This was his third marriage. This was my third marriage. And we both were so excited when we met one another. We both just, we were looking for someone that, I guess you could say, that understood each other as well as that loved the Lord. And Tony loves the Lord. And Tony is my husband's name. So Tony loves the Lord. And when we met, he was going to church regularly, and he invited me to some of those church services with him, which meant a lot. We both went together to some of the services, and then we would leave and go to a coffee shop and sit down and talk together, and it was like everything I ever wanted. But what I wasn't thinking about is during those 10 years that I was by myself, I had literally taken a lot of those triggers that I used to get, and I put them up on a shelf, and I kind of left them there. Nobody was bothering me. Nobody was really triggering me. I was by myself. I lived by myself. I was, living on my own expectations, depending on myself. I was being independent, and I had no expectations. So now I'm with Tony, and we're learning about each other, and then all of a sudden, I'm getting triggered left and right by Tony. And I didn't know at this time that Tony suffered with OCD. This took some time for me to see that and figure that out. But one thing I can say is I was truly getting triggered by some of his behaviors. Many times when we go through divorces, this is for anybody, after your divorce, it's beneficial to take the time and heal. And I did talk to Tony about that. I did tell him that he needed to take more time to heal from his last marriage. And he said, well, I'm over it. I'm over that. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is healing from some of the behaviors that weren't serving you well in your last marriage. Because what I was seeing is some behaviors that were coming at me that threw me off. The OCD was throwing me off. We both were very insecure. I'm going to be very honest and upfront about that. We both were extremely insecure people. So, he would want me to check in with him when I got to work and let him know when I was going home, and wanting to talk every night, and every single night we would FaceTime. We would do this or that. And it was a lot of expectations coming from Tony in my mind. In my mind, there was a lot of expectations there. And I had my own expectations too, but he really wanted us to be connected each and every single day in some type of way. Well, being somebody that was independent and on my own for 10 years, that kind of came at me in a way that triggered me. So we got into lots of disagreements with one another, trying to sort out, what I wanted out of this relationship, and he was trying to sort out what he wanted out of the relationship. So we were trying to come together and bring this together with one another and try to work through things. I was getting triggered a lot from Tony's behaviors. And that's the problem when you've been so used to being alone for so long, and you get so used to depending on yourself. I didn't realize in a lot of ways that Tony was trying to make my life easier. He was trying to help me do things that would trigger me. I felt like he was trying to help me clean out my refrigerator, for example, because I was a single person. I didn't have things in order. And he would come and he would clean it up and put things in order for me. And that would trigger me. When I would go to his house, if I went into his bathroom, for example, and if he noticed the door was moved, he would ask me, hey, did you go into my bathroom? And that would trigger me. And I would be like, well, yeah, I went into your bathroom. Why is that? Is that a problem? We would argue about these little things with one another, trying to sort out if me opening the bathroom door is really that big of a deal. I mean, that's in my mind, that's just ridiculous. You're having me stay with you. I'm spending the night, so obviously I'm going to need to use the bathroom. So all these little things just started popping up between one another. And it was hard. It was really, really hard to get to know each other with all this going on. He didn't know all about my PTSD, my child abuse. He didn't know about all that at this time. And I didn't really know about his OCD problems at this time because Tony wasn't one to really talk about stuff like that. He told me about his last marriage. He told me about things that went on in that relationship. But what he didn't say was, some of his behaviors that may have stemmed from him and his ex splitting up. So I saw a lot of things going on between us that was really rubbing me the wrong way. So we really needed God in this relationship because it really wasn't going to have a leg to stand on where we were. He had family that was getting involved into our relationship, his sisters. They were getting very nosy about our relationship, wanting to know a lot about who I was and getting into my business and just things that were, in my opinion, very private. And my family was kind of rubbing us the wrong way and just sort of taking a step back from us because of our stand with the Lord and that we were believers. So we were having difficulty from both sides of the fence, his family, my family, and it was really a big challenge to come together our first year. His children didn't accept me. My children were okay with Tony at first, but then My youngest son sort of took a step back, but my oldest son has been in the picture with us since the beginning. My older son is more of a happy-go-lucky, loves to go out and do things with us. But in 2022, that first year of us being together was really a struggle. It was really tough getting to know one another. The triggers that were coming at me through things that I wasn't healed from. So even though Tony said he was over his ex, he wasn't healed from the behaviors that happened in that relationship that was probably the result of their downfall. And I wasn't healed from the triggers, from the things that happened in my first marriage and second marriage. I wasn't exactly healed from all that because I spent 10 years solo. So I took all of my trauma and issues and put them on a shelf and left it there. I wasn't really healing in my 10 years by being by myself. It took for me to meet my husband now, Tony, for him to trigger me in different areas that would bring out things. Like there's certain ways that Tony reminds me of my own dad. My dad is a big trigger to me. And my dad was very disrespectful to me, not just the child abuse, sexual abuse. He would just say things in such a disrespectful way to me, make me feel bad. He would put me down. And Tony's behaviors were disrespectful at times. Unknowingly, he didn't know he was being disrespectful to me. It would take me to point it out to him and let him know that, he was triggering me with rudeness or triggering me with maybe some woman walked by and he was staring or something along those lines that I felt was disrespectful. And so these have been the challenges in our first year, discussing our personal business with his family. Like he thought he was just trying to give them information to get to know me a little bit better, but yet his family ended up using that stuff against me. So we had a battle on our hands. We had to work through, expectations. My expectation was, I don't want you discussing our business with your family. And his expectation with me was, I would like it if you would be someone to let me know when you leave work and let me know when you get home. We had expectations and we had boundaries. We had things we really had to work through. But suffering from PTSD and the trauma that I had in my life made it very challenging and very difficult. But I'm going to say that God has been in this journey with both of us from the beginning. See, I believe God brought us together to be able to start this journey to heal each other and to heal individually. That's how sometimes God works through things. He brings people together and puts them on a journey to not only heal themselves, but to also help others heal who may be in the same situation. My hope is that if you're listening to this podcast, that you'll see that if you're having any of what I'm discussing right now, if you've come across this, if you're having these types of challenges, I pray that you have God in your story with you also, to lift this up to Him and allow Him to begin your journey. It's going to take going to the Lord every single day, making a commitment that you want Him in your journey with you, that you want Him to help you to heal. And that's what it is taking my husband and I. It is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. We're going to fall down, and believe me, we do. We fall down, we get back up. It takes a lot of forgiveness. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I don't feel like forgiving right at that moment. Oh, and he probably doesn't feel like forgiving me at times either. But we know that that's the key. The key is to forgive so that we can not be stuck in that moment of being bitter and allow ourselves to move on and allow the Lord to guide us to where we need to be. We're on a journey together. We know this. We know that's our purpose. We know that the Lord brought us together to heal and to help others to heal with the same challenges. He has OCD. I have PTSD. I suffer trauma. I have triggers. I have flashbacks. I have a lot of things that I've never healed from in my life. And now, over the past few years, He sent me on this healing journey. It started with writing a book, and page by page, I had started to heal. And I'm going to just tell you that whether you want to speak your truth audibly to somebody, or if you need to speak your truth by writing it down, blogging, writing a journal, whatever works for you is how you need to start your process. But you're not going to start healing unless you start talking about it. You have to talk about it. And I encourage my husband this all the time because he's not a talker. He clams up. So for him, he's better at writing than he is speaking audibly. So either way, I say to you and I challenge you, if you are good at speaking up audibly or if you're better at writing it down, pick one and do it. And make that commitment to start this journey today. Because the healing starts when you can make that commitment to the Lord and then allow Him to guide you every step of the way. May God bless you.